It's a project that Bulldozer Films have been doing for about 2 years now, mostly in Cardiff, but it's really nice to come to Newport to do one with our very special guest Philip John, or Phil John, he doesn't mind which, who's a Newport boy.
Special.
Not special. Newport boy, I'm from Cumbraran. Who here is from Newport? Okay, some people traveling. So I'm going to do the exciting part first. I've got some lovely feedback forms that I need you to fill out after the event because we get funding from Film Cymru Wales and BFI Network of Wales. So if you wouldn't mind filling one out after the event, that'd be really helpful for us to tell them that we're doing a good job, hopefully. And you're not here to hear me talk, so I'm not going to do too much of that Q&A hosting. I'm going to leave it all to you and Phil. But just to summarise, if you're not familiar with his work, I think he's got quite a few fans here, but some people might need a refresher. Phil's an award-winning director, BAFTA nominated for Downton Abbey, Outlander, feature film Moondogs came out in 2016, I think it was, which we programmed a chapter as a programmer. I remember that Q&A. Yeah, loads of work that we can talk about, and we're going to watch a few things too, a few short films. Where are you based at the moment?
I live in just outside of Cardiff.
Ah, nice. Okay, so I'm going to open with, I want to talk about Newport Film School where you studied, because I wonder if there's some people here who don't know much about Newport Film School. It turned out quite a few really good directors. So could you talk to us about that kind of journey and how you started?
God, it's a long story. It's a real long story. Suffice to say, I wanted to do this since I was about 8 or 9. But my dad was a foundry worker, my mum was a part-time waitress. We used to bath in a zinc bath, we had no bathrooms, no car, absolutely no resources of any kind. And so I like to do these meetings so that you can see someone who comes from the valley with absolutely having earned every fucking thing I've ever done. Nothing's ever been given to me, I have no family in the media. It's all about sheer persistence and focusing on what it is that you're after. And what I was after when I was 8, I wanted to shoot kung fu action. Because I was into Bruce Lee. And so we used to do it with Polaroids. We do little storyboards and stuff like that. And when I went to school, they'd say, what do you want to do, the careers advisor? And I'd say, I want to make films. And they'd go, what else do you want to do? And so I ended up in Crossleys College doing A-levels, and then I got a place in Goldsmith studying, well, torturing rats, basically, animal psychology. So I didn't go, and my mother had a fit, and my dad was good. He said, just let him do what he wants to do, he knows what he wants to do. And I was in a band at the time, we were in Crossleys, and then we moved down to Cardiff, and we started a record label, and we released singles, and we were an anarcho-syndicalist outfit. We refused to have a drummer because we didn't want to entertain people. But we put out a few records and we sort of gave as much information as we could about how you put out your own music. And it's a very strong streak of independence and sort of rebellion inside me. You look at fucking Downton Abbey and you wouldn't think so, but there's two versions of me. There's a version which has to earn the money and try to create a profile, get an agent abroad, blah blah blah. And then there's me as an ex-punk bassist wanting to create some kind of mischief. Those two things don't sit easily, so it's you have to pursue. I've got 3 kids and a mortgage, so I have to pursue the work that pays all of that, and then alongside all of that, I'm developing stuff on my own that satisfies me as a kind of filmmaker. So anyway, I didn't go to university, and I moved to Cardiff with my mates. And then, very slowly, I began to think about, why am I playing a bass? I loved it, but why aren't I pursuing the directing thing? And so I thought, well, all right, fuck it. I'm going to do a media foundation course in London, at the London College of Printing. So I went for a year there, had a great time, and then thought I knew everything. And I'd fallen in love with a woman in West Wales who had 3 kids. And so as a 24-year-old, I moved to West Wales thinking that I knew everything about filmmaking, and that I'd set myself up as a writer-director in a farming territory where no one gave a shit, and So this woman I'd fallen in love with had 3 kids, so I was like a stepfather, and it was a completely overwhelming time. I mean, it was full of joy and brilliant, but in terms of artistic life, fucking awful. I ended up shooting interiors for estate agents, plain photography for estate agents to sell land. I did a video about the tourist attractions in Pembrokeshire, which I sold advertising on it and sold it to hotels. So I wrote it, shot it, edited it, and that was a brilliant learning experience for me. But you know, then I applied to go to Newport Film School 6 or 7 years later, when I realised that I wasn't going to have children with this woman, and I sent them my tourist guide to Pembrokeshire, and they just fucking laughed me out the door. It was like, oh, shit, you know, I've moved so far away from anything that you might call creative. Fortunate, well, and they said, right, well, no, we haven't got a space for you, and you know, the application wasn't brilliant. It was that tourist thing, you know. I was like, but you know, I fucking shot it, and I wrote it, and I edited it, and anyway, luckily for me, there was a guy there who had done the same thing when he was a kid. And he'd done a corporate video about hotels or something, and he liked it. And so someone got cancelled, and then I just took that place. And so I just got in by the skin of my teeth. And then I thought, right, I'm gonna fucking show you. And then it was like two years of the most perfect creative practice. There was 8 people in the year. We shot on film. We had brilliant tutors. There's a guy called Les Mills. It was over in the campus, just over the bridge there, the beautiful copper dome on the top. And it was just joyous. I completely sort of split open, and all these ideas came out, and I was writing and putting stuff together, and it was so satisfying. And I think I was 30 when I did that, and I came out the other end of it. Well, there was one thing that happened to me which completely changed me. I went as a cinematographer because I didn't have the confidence to be a director. I lived up the valleys. Why would I be a director? I got nothing, you know, nothing to say culturally. And so I went for a tutorial with my tutor, who was a guy called Steve Goff, who was a writer. And he said to me, look, you know, you're writing stuff, you know, you could, why are you being a DOP? You could be, why don't you be a director? I was like, well, he says, no, why don't you be a director? And so it just completely turned me around. Instead of coming out of film school as a camera person, I decided that, right, yeah, this is it. Why am I in film school and not being the thing I always thought I wanted to be? And so he turned me around completely. And not only did he turn me around then, but there was this thing called the Fuji Scholarship, where Fuji would send film stock to a college, all the colleges around the UK, and they choose one project to make as a film for that year. And I was doing great work. I knew I was doing great work there. And then Steve said, so can you bring your project in and we'll have a look at it and we can discuss it and da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, so I wrote this thing, took it in, give it to him, and he sort of looked up at me and he said, what the fuck is this? I said, it's my project, it's my project. He goes, it's shit. What have you done? You're copying, there's David Lynch, there's the Coen brothers in there. There's no unique voice. We can't make this. I'm really sorry, I'm really disappointed, in fact. Gave me it back, and I sort of went into some kind of spasm and went home, and I thought, fuck. And what that did, it taught me what a unique voice was, and how you can use your experience to come up with a story that might move other people and give you an original voice. I had no comprehension of an original voice. And so I went away, and overnight I wrote like a 10-page script about the woman I'd left in West Wales and about her children who'd been writing to me, asking me to come back. And what I'd done was I'd left her and gone to Risca and just stayed with my dad for like a week or something. And it was such a, blokes on their own, Jesus Christ. Just on his own in this shitty flat, eating bacon and eggs 4 or 5 times a day. And his life just seemed to be just awful, So anyway, I wrote about that experience, and I took it in the next day and they loved it and said, right, we're going to do this. And they did my project, the whole year did my project. And it went out and it won I think it won a prize for script prize or something. And I got a computer as a prize. And so it was really formative for me. Steve hadn't said any of those things, none of that stuff would have happened. So, you know, I love the fact that there's a group here, and I don't know if you meet outside of this arena, but there's something great about showing your work to other people and then being incredibly honest. It's enough to say, this is shit. What are you playing at? I know you can do better than this. And so then I came out of film school, and it was the most amazing experience for me, and I sort of invented myself as a writer-director. And of course then you can do that, but you have to persuade other people that you might be as well, which is the tough thing. And so there were a couple of jobs bubbling around, and thank God I hadn't had my kids then, because it just wouldn't have happened. But I did a few jobs I actually worked with Mike here, who was a fantastic producer. Worked with Fiction Factory with Mike on a few things. And just little bits and pieces started coming together. And then I realized that I developed a theory. I thought, right, okay, I've got to get an agent. That's what you've got to do to get a professional career. And I thought, well, how do I get an agent? I thought, I'll make a short film that's fucking great, and it'll win prizes, and I'll have something to sell. So I made 2 short films with money from Screen, or the Welsh film company as they are now. And there was a film called Suckerfish, which was, they're generally sort of true stories. So this story, Suckerfish, was about a birthday party I put together for my wife, my current wife, but girlfriend then. And then I did another film called Sister Lulu, which is about a very dark story about a nun in a convent and a murdering serial killer nun. It's about 4 minutes long. And that sort of won prizes and went around the place. Suckerfish I won Best Lesbian Filmmaker in Milan. So,
anyone could do it.
So, and then Mike and I went to New York and Los Angeles in the year 2K, and it was something called New Directions, and what they do is they look for new UK directors, and they look at their slate and they look at a short film, and then they take you to New York for a week and then Los Angeles for a week, and you meet studio heads. You just
amazing,
talk.
isn't it?
It was absolutely incredible. And so I did that for 2 weeks. But before I went out, I wanted ICM to be. I wanted to be a client of ICM, who were like the biggest agency. I thought I might as well aim high, you know. And then I discovered that just before I went out, they weren't interested. I'd sent them Sister Lulu, and they weren't interested anyway. So we went off to, we had a great 2 weeks. Came back, and I had a phone call from Kathy King, who was a really notable agent in London, who is a lesbian and who fucking loved Sister Lulu. And so she was my agent, and she got me my first professional job, which is like Murphy's Law, and I've been with her for 24 years now. And she's kept me in work, and my theory held, which was that you make a short film that's really good, that's world class, not some bullshit that you make to glorify yourself as a director, but a really good story with a good tone, and you'll get work off it, and you'll get an agent because they have something to show around. So, and then 24 years, I haven't really stopped working. I've been sort of directing and trying to develop a movie, some kind of, I don't know why, because movies never fucking happen when they say they're going to happen, and you don't get paid, so it's just like, that's pointless. So the TV work keeps you going, and, but yeah, that's kind of where I am now, is finding projects I love to work on. I also have American reps as well. There was this thing that, like an idiot, I thought, I'll go to Los Angeles and I've done enough work now, I'll go to Los Angeles and I'll get myself an agent. And my agent went, please don't do it. She said, it'll be a nightmare. I went, no, it's fine, look, I've got this. So she organizes me 3 meetings, and I go to Los Angeles and I meet the first lot, who say, yeah, we're only really meeting you because we like Kathy, so we've got no fucking work. So I'm like, shit. So then I leave and I go to another one, and the guy's like, pitch me some ideas. So I pitched him some ideas. He went, okay. All right, bye. So I left, and then I went to the final one, William Morris Endeavour, someone called Melissa, and she said, wow, I know your stuff, you did Being Human, you did this and this and this and this. She said, we know it, we know your stuff, I'm sure we can sell your stuff. And I was like, okay, great. So I said to you're my agent now. She said, we've got a massive department, let me talk to a few people about it, and I'll confirm everything next week, next Tuesday. So I fly home thinking, job done. Never heard from her. Never heard from her. And a few times I'd email her saying, I'm coming back to LA, should we hook up? Nothing, no response, no nothing. And then I did my film called Moondogs, and that won an award a couple of awards. And then I got a call late at night, at about 11 o'clock at night, as I was coming back from a shoot. These two Americans, I didn't know who they were, and they went, hi, yeah, we're interested in repping you. What do you think? Do you think you'd be interested in that? And I was like in the car going, I was like, yeah, I think so. I think that'd be interesting. And so I got, the reps have to come to you. They have to come to you. You can't go to them because they'll just shit all over you. And so having had that, I've done some work in the States and just always trying to kind of increase profile so that people will take you seriously to do movies or really big shows. I mean, what doesn't help lately is that my maid calls it pale, male and stale, which is to say heterosexual, white, old. So those opportunities in America sort of dried up because it's now all about younger folk, great. Diversity, great. But it doesn't leave a lot of room for people like me. So I'm working much more now in the UK. I wrote a movie over lockdown that I'm shooting at the end of the year. And yeah, just trying to keep head above water and pay the bills and look after my kids.
Yeah.
Is that everything?
I think a lot of punks or ex-punks, you've got to take that DIY ethos.
It's part of you. You can't get rid of it. I do things like even in interviews. I wanted to do Shameless, desperate to do it, and I got invited in by the producer. We said, we love your work, we think you're great, and David Trelfall wants to do 2 episodes, direct them, so we'd like to offer you 2 episodes, and then maybe you could mentor David Trelfall. And I thought, fuck, that's brilliant. And so I really got on well with him. At the back of the room was this metropolitan wanker in a suit and a fucking bald head. At the end of it, we just had Lily, our daughter, and I had to get the 4:30 train back, otherwise it was going to cost 200 quid or something like that. And it was now 4 o'clock and I had to get out of there as quickly as possible. Anyway, this guy sort of wanders over and sort of very, casually says, and is there anything you'd like to ask me? And I said, yeah, can I go now? Never did Shameless, never went back there. So there's a definite voice in me which is like, fucks things up sometimes, but I think that's, I think it's a voice to be cultivated.
I think it's good to be yourself.
I think so. Yeah. And I let myself off now thinking that, well, I didn't want to work with that.
Yeah.
Right, anyway, so.
I think it's fine to lose work if you're being true to yourself.
Yeah.
Going back to your short films, I know you've got a few things that you'd like to show. So
yeah. There's a couple
Sister
of things.
Lulu?
I have Sister Lulu.
Do we want to watch Sister Lulu?
Yeah.
Can I show you something else first, which might be more pertinent to you as filmmakers? The commissioning process is a horror show. You have an idea in your head, you take it to a commissioner, it's a beautiful lemon, they want like a peach, like a shitty peach. So my friends and I, there's a guy called Dean Kavanagh who writes with Irving Welsh a lot, and I've worked with them quite a lot. And there's this actor called John Owen who I met on Nuts and Bolts in Merthyr, and we set about doing this web series that we weren't going to spend a lot of money on it. But Dean was writing the scripts, and Dean is fantastic. He's sort of like a Renaissance man. He does music, he does art, and his scripts are just, the frame of reference is so huge and exciting. You can never predict what he's going to write. Anyway, he started to write about this Welsh guy who goes up to London carrying a Tesco bag with a bunch of cassettes in it to try and sell his band to like A&R people. Already cassettes were out of the mix. But he's this indomitable character who will not take no for an answer. And so we wrote the first episode and we shot it on a street in London, no insurance, no location, no locations whatsoever. We sort of used empty buildings and shot an angle which looks like there might be busy or there might be people in there. We shot in a pub locally. So we did the first one and we put it out on YouTube and it just went mad. We had like thousands and thousands of views of it. So we thought, wow. And then we got a call from Alan McGee, the guy who found Oasis, who did Creation Records, fancied himself as an actor. Like to be in episode 2, please. And so he came and did episode 2. He's no fucking actor. And then episode 3, I started calling favors. I knew Sally Phillips. I knew quite a few people that I'd worked with before. And then we did episode 4. And then we got all the way up to episode 9. And by episode 9, we'd had Boy George, Martin Freeman, Sean Harris. It was just like a beautiful process, and we had fans that would come to wherever we were filming to watch. It was like a gig. They'd watch it like a gig, and when you rap, they'd clap. It's the weirdest fucking thing. And then we put them out, and they would do really well, and it got on the news and all sorts of business. And then discovered that we really should have signed a contract between the 3 of us, because I thought we were mates. I thought we were solid, and John Owen decided that he'd found this guy who would put up some money to make a movie. And what John did basically was pay Dean to get the scripts for the series and then wrote some bits and pieces in between. He's no writer. And then he got another director to direct it. And it was like the most appalling betrayal. And we did say that we were going to write some contract and we'd all sign it, but we were like, why would we do that? We're all mates. Don't fucking trust mates in a situation where he's an actor, and so he wanted to be the lead in this film, which he was always going to be. And then they shot the movie, and my favourite moment about that film was when it was shown in Edinburgh, someone stood up and said, why isn't it as good as the web series? And I haven't spoken to John ever since. I've just blanked him out of my life, as Dean has. But it's about finding a crew, people that you love. It's about people whose tone that you love, whose writing that you love. So that's what my life has been as well. It's about accruing people who are loyal and talented, and they're all iconoclastic. Dean's fucking total rebel, as is Irving. So it was a nice place to be in good company. But we did Svengali, and I was just going to show you episode 1, if that's okay. It's not very long. It's about 5 minutes or something, 6 minutes. But it gives you an idea of the setting up of a story and a character that you really want to follow. And the fact that we did 9 episodes of this, you could have put all those together and you'd have a nice 45-minute sort of pilot. But you do it at the time when you're so pissed off with the commissioning process and people who think they know better than you do what your project is, that it's proof of, it's like, what do they call it? Proof of
Proof of pipe?
Proof of concept, yeah. Exactly that, yeah. And so we had proof of concept, and then it just went shit downwards, because we hadn't signed a contract. But anyway, this is episode 1.
Can you also...
It had a real momentum to it, and it really... I think we did it over the next 8 months, did 9 episodes. We did 1 episode, I think, of which I'm most proud, in a radio station where they were broadcasting live with our characters appearing live on the radio station. So suddenly all of this meltdown was happening on actual radio. And people must be thinking, what the fuck is going on? We had Bonehead there from Oasis, and Sean Harris was there. And, it was just so great to think that what we were doing was going out live over the radio. But yeah, I mean, the full series is on my website, which is philipjohn.net, and if you want to see the whole series to give you some ideas of what's possible on Next to Nothing, feel free.
It's sort of taking the way that you live in a band to a crew, isn't it? You live together, you work together,
Yeah, it's kind of, you're drawing on your own experience, it's something that's really important, I think, when you start writing, is that you always look inside and see what pisses you off, what makes you laugh, what makes you cry.
It's very personal to share that with a crew or a band. It's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, Dean did the majority of the writing. I mean, he's so funny, and it's great. but we were like the Three Musketeers until we weren't.
Does anyone have any questions at this point before we watch? Are we watching Sister Lulu?
Yeah, I'd love to show you this.
Okay, cool. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to Sister Lulu? Feel free. You're not here to.
You can ask me anything you want.
It could be anything you want. You could ask him his favourite dessert.
Yeah.
What's your favourite dessert?
Chocolate mousse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, you were talking earlier about when you made your shorts just out of film school and you went to an agent and you kind of showed them. I mean, do you think that method still works?
Absolutely.
In the present day?
It's the very best method.
Yeah.
I just have a sense that so many people like there are now. There are so many people out there trying to get a job in the industry. And it's kind of, because everybody now has got laptops, they've got ways of shooting films and cutting them together. It just means you have more terrible short films. What you need is just one really good script, and you know it's good, and you've worked with people on it, and you've taken it to actors, and they've given you notes, and you know it's a really important thing that you try and make it as well as you possibly can. And both my films were fucking good. You know, I just really worked hard. It took me 2 years to get Suckerfish made with Screen, because I'd only presented the male angle, and then I got a female producer and we worked on putting the female angle in, which then made it fly, and it was great. So it's a long trek, but you have to be honest with yourself. Do you really want to be a director? Is this a fucking hard job? And can you really write scripts? You just have to ask yourself this and be honest about it and work with other people, because on your own you'll just convince yourself of anything.
Do we have any director writers here, aspiring director writers? Cool. Great.
Right.
Right.
You need to work together.
Yeah.
You need to take an oath of truth, like a blood. Do
you want to give a little summary of Sister Lulu again before we watch it, or should we just watch it? Oh, sorry.
Just one more question, just on the back of that. How do you protect your ideas then as a writer? Because I know obviously there's been times where you go to pitch and sometimes somebody, be it a producer or whatnot, will run with that without you.
Yeah.
And that's quite common. So is there a way that you can kind of navigate that? Because myself, I'm quite a new writer.
Right.
I'm not super precious with it, obviously, because you have to kind of.
You can log your scripts with the Writers Guild in America, and I think also in the UK.
as well, yeah.
You can log your script. You put it. I think it's something about sealing it in an envelope, putting a date stamp on it, and I think you maybe send it off to them. And they,
Yeah, you could do that, or you can send a stamped address to a lawyer or a solicitor,
Yeah.
as long as it's got a postmark on it. And stuff like that.
gives a date
It's
and
been
your
sealed,
ownership.
yeah.
You can prove your ownership of it because it's your writing on the envelope, and you have
Can't
to be
protect
careful.
ideas up.
No,
No.
it's just
No.
funny off that because a guy I know actually did that, the envelope thing and everything, and somebody, I won't mention what channel, took it, ran with it, and his name wasn't connected to it whatsoever.
The problem you have is they've got expensive lawyers and you've got nothing. And they'll cost
Dog
you.
eat dog.
Yeah.
Just have to be very careful, really, and try to develop it as much as you can.
The best thing to do is to attach as many people to it as possible so that they know it's there and everyone's invested in
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a pretty good question. Now a good time to watch Sister Lulu?
So Sister Lulu is, I didn't know what I was going to do for the difficult second film. And I remember lying in bed and thinking of this woman with a Welsh accent laughing hysterically in a coffin. And I thought, what the fuck is that? And then I sort of built it out from there. I built out this story, and you'll see it. But it's been really successful. It's kind of a very simply told, but kind of, yeah, I don't know, people like it. And I think it's because it's not indulgent, it doesn't go on and on. It delivers its point, and yeah, that's what it is.
Cool.
The sort of useful thing about it is that nobody really expected to see that story. You know, it was something that was completely, you don't know where it's going, you don't know what is actually happening. And the storytelling is such that you're sort of kept along with her experience and her memory, and then you sort of work out what's going to happen to her. And it's the kind of story that makes me laugh. It's so bleak and dark. I love that shit. So it was all about me, really, about how I like that dark stuff.
I think there's a lot of personality in it, and I think, going back to what you've been saying about making a good short film, it was very taut. It's clearly like you've not gone off piece too much.
No.
And I think that's a really, really good way to start out, is just work your ass off and make a really good short film that has your personality in it.
And also, I mean, it is an original voice. It's not, you know, I haven't seen a film like that anywhere else, and I don't know where it came from. But the moment I started writing about this face in a box, then it sort of spread. It sort of became this thing, and I sort of understood that it sort of comes from inside. So it's that subconscious thing that if you allow it, it sort of fills a gap, a void that you've created with this central image of this woman in a box. So that was a really great learning experience, and it got me my agent. That film got me my agent, which has given me like a career so far of like 25 years.
When writing it, I'm quite interested. We did a screenwriting film networking social, and someone had some really good advice, which was, if you think you've got a really good idea but you get writer's block or you're struggling, put it away and go back to it. What was the writing process for this? Did it kind of come quickly, or did you go back to it a lot? Or?
I just wrote, the first thing I wrote was a monologue, a long monologue, and I wanted Siwan Morris, who was the actor in it, wanted her to say it just so I could hear it. And I love the Welsh accent, you know, it's weird, I have this very deep Welsh agenda while also fucking loathing Wales and, you know, all the shit that we do as a country, and how lame we are that we're not independent, and you know, all of those things. But I wanted her to, I just wanted to hear it, you know, and it was just like music. And so that formed the spine of it, and then this kind of serial killer nun. And I wanted it to look like a Czech porn movie, like black and white, and, you know, just sort of slightly edgy. So it worked really well, and we took a day. It was 24 shots, which was one day. So that was going some, but we shot it at Atlantic College, who were very friendly with filmmaking. You know, you could go there and ask.
Yeah, they're really supportive, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Any more questions from
How old were you when you made it? How old?
I was 33, 34, something like that.
What was the production period of that, as opposed to Sucker?
Suckerfish came first, and then I did this. It was a Channel 4 thing with Screen rather than a BBC thing, which was what Suckerfish was. And so it just seemed to go through the process, and yeah, ended up shooting it on black and white. And you know, I think you have to make bold choices, because otherwise, you know, that's how you come up with something that's sort of out there.
Did it go through festivals then, or did
Yeah.
it get screened on TV with?
I think there was a Channel 4 thing where it got screened on TV, but in the main it just went around the world.
Was that Round the Max by any chance?
No, it was, no, it was,
Before then.
yeah, Rare Bits or something? Rare Bits? Is that it?
Was that having to come out of your own sort of production money to pay for it to go into festivals?
No, there was a budget for
There
it.
was a budget.
I think we had a budget of about 15,000, something like that. But for one day, you know, it was fine.
Yeah.
Except my first AD, it's a complete fucking liar, who said to me, as we started the day, I was already an hour and a half behind. And we hadn't shot anything. I was like, no, that's not going to work. I don't trust you now. You're a liar.
Anyone else? Maybe we could bring it kind of forward to a lot of your TV work, and obviously you've done Downton Abbey, Outlander, Marvel series.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about how that's been and how that got you to where you are now and what you're currently working on?
Yeah. Downton Abbey was kind of changed the game for me completely. It's a lie. It's a horrible lie. How, you know, benevolent toffs are. Fucking hell. But I was this kind of South Walian man appearing on set with all of these very upper class people. So I just wanted to get in there and swear loads, and you know. And so the first time I went there, I'd always adored Maggie Smith, always loved her. I think she's a genius. I walked up to her day one and I said, "Hi, I'm Phil, I'm the Next Block director. I've adored you all of my life. I'm going to get you shot out by about 5 o'clock. She said, I couldn't give a fuck. What time did you shoot me out by? And I thought, what have I done? Day one, I patronised this genius, you know. And then we go downstairs to shoot the first scene, and what happens is like a bullfight. All the producers come down to see what a mess she's going to make of the next director. She is evil.
Wow. I think every director has a story like this, doesn't it?
So we were down in the room where it was her living room, and all the producers are there going. And Maggie comes in, and I go up to her and I say, so Maggie, I ask a lot of questions. I never prescribe anything. I want people to invest in the stuff that we're shooting. So I said, Maggie, where would you like to sit? She said, well, if you're any kind of director, you would tell me where to sit. I said, well, okay, there's a desk over there where you could be writing your diary, and you know, it's beautiful, and we've got the window behind her. She went, that's a stupid idea. She wouldn't be writing at her desk this time of day. I said, okay, so there's a table here, and I've got flowers, and you could be arranging flowers with the valet, you know. And she went, also, stupid idea. Once again, if you look at the script, it's too early in the day for her to be doing that. I went, I tell you what, Maggie, there's a sofa over there that you've been sat for the past fucking 5 years. Why don't you sit there? She went, yes. So she went and sat in this thing. And then brilliantly, she forgot what the scene was about. She'd read it. What happens in the scene is they've taken on this new gardener boy who nicks a letter opener, and she's about to talk to her valet about could it be the kid? And then she says to me, so the scene is, I suspect my valet of stealing the... I said, no, that's not what it is. She said, it is, that's what it is. I said, no, what it actually is that you're talking to the valet about the young boy in the garden, and maybe he's stolen it. And she sort of thought for a second, and then she said, have I been a bit silly? I went, no, Maggie, it's absolutely fine. But this is the story, and you just slightly misunderstood the script. Let's shoot. And from then on, it was hugs and kisses from her. But she does a number on everybody. She used to call the clockwork cunt. Shout at the top of her voice. Here he comes. He's like, hello, Maggie. And she's terrifying. She eats chicken livers mashed up like a witch. So, I mean, she's a genius. She's a genius. I mean, everything she did and said was, you know, extraordinary. But it's so hard to be evil. It's just so much not easier to be nice. So yeah, I did that, and it's an amazing show to work on because everything has to be perfect. So you're really tested as a filmmaker. I did 3 seasons of that, and of course all of that profile went well over in the States, which I think also helped with my American agent. But yeah, what it does is it makes you, you know, if I ever lacked confidence, when you go up to Downton and you're with all of these people who are kind of very educated, I'm not educated, I'm not very, you know, I don't know much about literature, and I just know how to swear and mean what I say, so that really stood me in good stead on Downton. And then a couple of years later, I did Outlander, which is this Scottish romantic time travel drama based in Scotland, and it's basically a bunch of books written by this American author who was inspired to write the books by seeing Doctor Who, and there was a muscly guy in the background wearing a kilt, and she wondered who that might be, and so that was the basis for Outlander, where this woman from the 1950s is thrust back into the 1780s and the Jacobite rebellion, and falls in love with this guy, the muscly guy with the kilt, and it was dark. I mean, it was dark. There are children killed, there's rape aplenty, it's kind of like, and also the clever thing they did was they had all the Scottish people speak in Gaelic, so that our female from the future really can't understand what's going on, so you're sort of left adrift with her. So it was really smartly done, and it was show run by a guy called Ron, I can't remember his name now, Ronald D. Moore, who did a bunch of brilliant stuff, you know, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, who was a bit like a god. He arrived in Scotland and we were all around the table waiting for him to come in. As he came in, the air just went different. It was like, fucking hell, it's wrong. And so I started to shoot on my episodes, And day 3, I was with my showrunner, and he came up to me and said, "I got this letter from LA. Do you want to read it?" And I went, "Yeah, all right." And I read it, and it said, "The footage from this director is not going to cut. The coverage is crazy, and it doesn't make any sense to us." So I was like, "What the fuck? I've been doing this for a long time." And so we went to see our editor, and we saw the cuts, and they looked great. And then I discovered what it was. It was one of the main characters in the show was in the back of shot. Nothing to do with the story happening in the front of shot. It was just extra value because he's in the back of shot. And because I hadn't done a mid-shot on this guy, they thought I just wasn't getting the coverage that was needed. We didn't need a mid-shot on the guy because he's not in the front story. So, and then I thought, oh God, I'm gonna be fired for the first time. You know, this is it. And then Ron came over, and I thought, this is it. And he came to set, and he came up to me, and he said, "This stuff is fucking beautiful. Do you want 2 more eps?" And I was like, yeah. But it's just forest fires that start because people are just, you know, neurotic. You know, the American industry is fantastically neurotic. When I did a Marvel show called Iron Fist, and I had an interview with the showrunner, and I saw the first season of Iron Fist, and I thought it was terrible. And so I thought, well, here we go, I'm going to do myself out of the job, I'm going to tell him what I thought. And so this guy comes on, Raven, his name is, and he says, "So what do you think of series 1? I said, "I fucking hated it, it was terrible." He went, "It made my eyes bleed too." "How soon did you get over here?" And it was like, oh, fuck. Great. But then when I got there, the process, their process is so intense that you normally, in the UK, you have 6 weeks to prep something. In the States, you have 8 days. And so you arrive there, there's a script that's already written. The first moment I get there, I'm dragged into this meeting. There's already about 40 people around the table waiting to hear my ideas. And I'm like, "Can I read it first?" And then they all head off. And this happens every day. 1-2 meetings a day, massive meetings. And when they left, there was also a phone thing there. There was another 20 people in LA listening to the meeting. And so there's this intensity, and there's 3 people buzzing around you going, "Are you going to storyboard this sequence? Because this is a reboot of Iron Fist, and it needs to work. Are you going to do that? Are you going to do this? What about this?" And by the time I'd finished the prep, I just thought, I can't do this. I can't do it. I don't know quite what I'm doing. And I've been so pushed and pulled that, and actually I felt ill as well. So I walked in to the studio day 1, and it was a 10-page day, which is a lot. And we started filming, and I just had this out-of-body experience. I just saw this pathetic man stumbling onto the studio, feeling like shit, about to be torn apart by people, you know. Anyway, we shot the 10-page day, finished early, and then this next day was another 10-page day, shot that 10-page day early, and then the showrunner came up to me and said, "Stuff is fucking ace, I'm going back to LA." And then it was like joy, because I realized, well, they realized I was doing it, and they liked my stuff, and they liked my ideas, but it was actually designed to freak you out. And I don't know why it would be like that. I just don't understand it. But the Americans work like that. It's 8 days prep, it's 9 days shoot, and then 4 days edit. We have 6 weeks in the UK to edit. There's 4 days in the US. And you're meant to put your episode together, and then you send it in, and then they're free to do what they want with it. So it's quite a, I mean, if you can work there, then you can work anywhere, really. So yeah, I'm pretty confident now when I go to work that whatever faces me, I can pretty much work around. So then, come lockdown, the Christmas before lockdown, I get sent this script from India, which was, it was an adaptation of a novel called Arrangements of Love. And it was written by the Indian author. And I got sent it, and it was written in a style of like an American noir. And the story was about quite a wealthy theatre director from New York who goes to India to try and find his father. He wants to get the rights to his novel to do a play, and he gets a private detective in order to find the father. Anyway, read the script, it was a fucking abomination. I sent it back with some notes saying I don't like it. Anyway, thanks very much, good luck with it. And then March, when everything went into lockdown, I got a call from them saying, do you want to adapt the novel? We agree with your notes. Do you want to sit down? And I was like, and I'd written this thing about my dad, which was the Fuji film I'd written. And I thought, wow, yeah, I could pick that up. And I hated all the characters because they were wealthy, middle class, who gives a fuck? So then I wrote the hero, as a Welsh Asian at film school, who sort of goes through pretty much the experience that I had. And his mum came from India, eloped with a Welsh poet, and lives in Crosskeys. And he's trying to find out about his dad, but the mum won't tell him anything. And what she has is this massive secret. And she dies suddenly, she's hit by a car. And then he finds this case with all of these things to do with her Indian childhood. And he finds a novel written by this guy. And so he starts to research and finds that his biological father is still alive. So he extends his student loan, goes to India, finds the father, hires a private detective, finds the father's a prick, has a sort of a love affair with the private detective. Because film is a business. It's not it's not a art movie. They like to sell it as a romantic comedy. It's not. It's a subverted love story. That's what I'm playing with. And so that's shooting later in the year. We've got Sony distributing, and we've got Irish co-producers. But who knows? I had an Anthony Hopkins movie 4 years ago that was due to go, which fell apart as we were hiring crew. So you can't. There's nothing you can do. You're just at the mercy of money. But that's kind of where I am now, and what I'm doing next. I'm working on a 4-part drama with Neil Morrissey on Channel 5 called The Hoard, which is about a guy who finds a stash of Saxon gold with his metal detector and decides to keep it, and his life turns to shit.
It's been the theme here, isn't it?
That's it's where I live. So that's where I am after 24, 25 years or whatever.
Oh, amazing.
I think we've got like 5 minutes, so anyone got a burning question, just please shout at it.
Hello.
Hello.
Would you ever do a proper Welsh crime caper? Would you ever do anything like that?
I did one called Bang,
Yes.
which was on S4C.
Yes.
Yeah, we did 2 seasons of that. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And the trouble with me is I don't work in Wales very much.
Yes.
I've sort of said what I thought to too many people, so it doesn't.
We've got characters around here. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
we're the best characters in the world, I think.
No, I think that's what it's all about. It's about the texture of where you live and what you love about where you live, and what are the stories about where you live, and what moves you about those stories. You can't be cynical and go, oh, I'm going to do this thing about Newport and the Murringer, and you have to sort of find something that you care about. Could be horrific, could be lovely, could be, do you know what I mean? It's about locating those stories and feeling them in your heart, which is why I always do dark shit.
Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
Just talked about preparation you do, sort of, and you said about how America sounds very intense. I wondered, sort of, do you see in younger, inexperienced directors sort of that something you wouldn't do in terms of preparation? Do they do too much or too little, and they kind of get chewed up?
It's weird. I tend not to mix with other directors. I think they're all assholes. So there are directors I'm friends with who I love and would happily work together with. But it's such a competitive game that it's very difficult to sort of. It's not that I don't trust them. It's just that I have to get on with my shit. I'm always looking at people's scripts. I'm always trying to help people with notes on scripts. Very happy to talk to people about projects if they want like a brutal assessment of what it is, because that's the only thing I can do. But yeah, I think it's difficult to know what directors do in terms of their prep. I know what I do. It's a very simple process. I just go through it and work out the story and decide where it should be and what the tone is. That's the job, is to deliver the tone of the script. So then you look at, and maybe I'll just get a song in my head which informs that, and then you start seeing locations and there's something that speaks to you about it. I don't think too hard. I wait for things to occur to me, because those are the interesting decisions, I think. So I try not to plan, and I certainly don't tell actors where to walk or be or behave. I sort of invite them in and then get out of the way. And you know, if you cast properly, then you're laughing. If you can't cast properly, you're fucked. So that's a really key thing, is working with actors and getting used to speaking to actors about giving them direction. There's this one thing that happened to me in another thing that changed me completely. I went on a director's workshop in Ireland, and it was amazing. They brought, like, Stephen Frears was there, and John Irvin was my mentor there. And what they do is they say, right, go off and write a monologue, and then you've got an actor. You know, there's an actor there. Everybody had actors. Write your monologue, and then rehearse it, and then we'll have a look. I was like, great, okay, I can do this. In film school, we never discussed working with actors. There's nothing about working with actors, and it's a very particular thing that you need to know about working with actors. And so,
I remember when I was in Newport, it was always take risks, and they never sort of imply what those risks were.
They need to fill you in a bit on the information you need to know. So I wrote this monologue, and I went to the actor, and I went, right, now you go. Now the first line. Now you have to go up on the end there because it's a question, it's an inflection. And then the second line, if you do that slowly. Third line, if you could, just make this funny, that's funny. And then fourth line, and the actor was like, and I thought, what's he looking at me like that for? And then John Irving came back, and I said, right, we're ready, we rehearsed it. And the actor did it exactly as I asked him to. And it was fucking terrible. Because I'd given him like a result direction. Be happier, be funnier. And then what I discovered was that there's a whole system of, you have to engage an actor, you have to speak to their subconscious. And you do that, it's really simple. You give them verbs. Interrogate. I want you to interrogate this person. It's not like be more angry with them, because what the fuck are they angry about? How do they know anything about it? No, it's not, seduce them, not be more happy with them. You're giving them a direction that they can look into themselves about and think, right, how do I bring seduction into this? Or how do I bring interrogation into this? And the actor is suddenly plugged in, and you're plugged into the actor because you're speaking in terms of how they can. The worst direction I ever heard was a friend of mine who did a show, and the director came up to her and he said, right, could you do that look at the end of part that actors do? So she went like that. He went, yeah, like that. It's the worst fucking direction because there's nothing that's internal about it. It's a result direction. Just look into the middle distance. It's fucking terrible. So there are many directors out there who have no clue about how to speak to actors. So I would say any of the directors here, work on that. There's a fantastic book. Weston, Judith Weston. She does all of that. She gives like dictionaries of verbs. They're amazing, and it just gives an element of trust between you and the actor because they know that you're working with them rather than saying, "Oh, just fucking do it quicker." Do you know what I mean?
Cool. I think time for one more question. I think.
When you're working with a DOP, is there anything that you really enjoy or absolutely despise when doing?
I love collaborating. It's a really important thing. I've got the shot in my head, so I don't need a DOP to come and offer me shots. I will always look through the viewfinder. Some DOPs don't like it. I just think then they're insecure and why the fuck are we working together? I want them to tell me stuff and I want to be able to tell them stuff. So I think it's about finding someone who can work quickly and is honest about, knows lenses. I know lenses, so I don't really need that either. There's this fantastic producer from LA called Bob Evans. And he said, you make your own luck in this industry, and I define luck as when preparation meets opportunity. And it's about preparing yourself for that moment. You meet a DOP who says, yeah, we can't use a 14 on this, and you can go, fuck off, we are using a 14 because that would be great because of this. It's about preparing your armory with all the information that you're going to need to argue the toss with other people, or even just take on a job that somebody else isn't able to do. Someone goes, I'm looking for a director, I've got this short, and they've just ducked out. You can go, it's me, I'll do it. and you know that you can do it, but you have to know that you can do it. So you have to work diligently and learn about the line and all of those things that have to do with the craft of directing. So just keep working and plugging away, and no plan B.
Cool, I think that's a really good bit to end on. So thanks very much for coming to Newport to talk to us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see people coming out on a Sunday. Thank you.